Hey, you guys, it's Crystal Jordan, and I am back. And this time we are going to be talking about last year for me. So I know 2019 and the beginning of 2020, I completely disappeared on you guys. Like, y'all heard from me all the way through the beginning of 2018, and then 2019 came, and I was completely silent. And I feel bad about that because I promised myself that when I started doing this, that I was going to be super transparent in my journey. Um, and I just kind of disappeared. So I am here to tell you guys why I disappeared for so long, and kind of give you guys a recap of everything that happened, so that you understand the whole ordeal. Everything's going to make sense. Just work with me. By the way, y'all ignore my BTBs, my ratchet edges. It's time to take this braids down. I just don't have the strength and energy to do it right now. So, part of why I was gone so long was I was simply like just getting my life together. Stuff was just out of whack and out of order. Like 2019, you guys saw that. I mean, 2018, you guys saw that I had gotten into a relationship, and then I went through the whole, celibacy boundary issue, and ended that relationship, and I was just kind of like on this whirlwind. I don't know. I wasn't in a good headspace. Okay, so also part of that was I didn't feel qualified. This is something God really had to deal with me on. Um, I didn't feel qualified to get on here and speak to you guys about herpes and sex addiction and all these different things. Sometimes we're our worst enemy, and we have all these things going through our head like, you don't have a degree for this and you don't have a degree for that, and who gave you the authority to do this, it just took some time for me to actually sit down and sit still to the people who love me and listen to God, and he'd be like, I qualified you. And you don't need nobody else's approval. You don't need nobody else's acclimates or anything stamped on your name for you to do what I told you to do. Be obedient. And so 2019 was, I'm not going to lie to y'all, a year of pure, cold hearted disobedience. I did what I wanted to do. I had gotten to this fed up point and was like, screw this. I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm going to do it how I want to do it. I'm going to say what I want to say. I'm not going to say the stuff I don't want to say. I ain't doing it. Find somebody else. Like, that is where I was. So, what happened? Okay, so beginning of 2019, and my birthday's in January. So, the very beginning of January, I was already kind of in a rocky place mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And my body had just been tripping on me. I've been having seriously dysfunctional and painful period cramps for years, since I was like 14 years old. So I finally decided I want some answers. Somebody, like, doctors have just kind of been telling me, oh, you just have bad cramps, it's whatever. So I decided I wanted some answers. So I find out that I have endometriosis. And because I wasn't in the best place, it was just kind of a trigger for me. Um, all these things started running through my mind. And I'm going to make a video about endometriosis for you guys and kind of explain that story and how everything went down with endometriosis, and also explain what it is. Um, but, I basically got the answers to why I was in so much pain. And so my endometriosis meltdown led to me acting out, like, and I still take full responsibility for all of my actions, but you guys know that I deal with sex addiction, and I was, I'm recovering, and just trying to do things differently, and trying to get life in order when it comes to that. And so, because I was already in this terrible place between relationships and endometriosis, and really just not feeling myself or my calling or any of that, I ran back to what was comfortable for me, which was sex. So that led to me breaking my celibacy. I ran back to the ex that we talked about in November, you guys, and I had sex with him. Well, that was not good for me. That honestly I can say was the lead to like a downward spiral. And so I did that, went home, and I had literally had a nervous breakdown. You know, it was too much for me. I was upset with myself for breaking my celibacy. I had a freak out moment. I had a nervous breakdown on top of everything else I already had going on in my personal life. And, at that, when I went home, I had to do an ultrasound that confirmed my endometriosis. So it was just like one thing on top of another. So that happened, kind of met someone else, got into, somebody helped me through my stuff. So that's when I came back, and you saw I did like one video in February. That was the video where I was trying to like shake everything off. And I think I did it, can't remember what the video was, you guys. Um, but I do know it was a herpes video. So I did that video, tried to shake everything off, even did a talk show appearance. I did the Conversation Corner on Status Network with Andrew Snorton, and I got on there. We talked about herpes, we talked about my YouTube channel, we talked about the business that I was trying to build and all these great things that I wanted to do with what I was doing. And I still couldn't shake this unqualified feeling. And so I just decided I'm going to put everything down. Like I realized in the head, I was just messed up. So I put everything down. Even though the rest told me not to, I sat everything down. It was like, I'm not doing anything. I don't want to do anything until I feel better. Because I was literally, especially with the whole celibacy thing, in this like break down and cry on a regular basis thing. I didn't want to, I'm not gonna lie, part of it was shame. I didn't want to get on here and tell you guys that I had broken my celibacy. After speaking about celibacy, I didn't, there was some shame behind it, and I promised I would be transparent with my story. But it's one thing to promise yourself something before it actually happens, and then when it happens, you're like, oh crap, now I got to tell all these people. And so that's the place that I was in. I wasn't ready to talk because I knew I wasn't comfortable with getting on camera and being as vulnerable as I thought I wanted to be, and breaking down and crying in front of you guys and things like that. So I sat down, and in the midst of this sit down, I knew I shouldn't have been dating or anything. Ended up in 2 different relationships in 1 year. It was a total mess. Um, Counterfeits were real. But basically 2 relationships, 2 engagements in 1 year. I know y'all like, oh my gosh, she's crazy. Yeah, I know. I went through like I had a year. And I was calm with the celibacy thing from January all the way to like halfway through the year, like June, July, and then I relapsed again. And when I say relapse, like the first time was a broke celibacy. Second reason I used relapse was because as far as my addiction goes, I looked at it as a relapse because it wasn't I just had sex. It was I had sex and I could not stop. Um, and I contained it in a box of a relationship, but I took everything out on that. And so in the midst of that, I ended up in a relationship with someone who was completely toxic for me for a couple of months. Like I said, that was engagement number 2, and even had to put a restraining order on this person. Again, all of these different things, you guys, I promise, are going to be explained in separate videos because I know I'm spitting out a lot of random stuff at one time, and y'all are like, huh? So I promise I'm going to go back and do an individual video for everything. But I ended up getting a restraining order actually around this time last year. We're September now, but October last year. So with all that going on, as much as I wanted to come in and tell you guys about that and share that experience with you guys, I was extremely fragile and just crying all the time. And like I said, I just wasn't ready to be as vulnerable as I thought I was ready to be, on camera crying. And I know that, that story could have helped somebody, which is why I am going to share it, and do a separate video about it. But I wasn't ready to talk. I didn't want to be bothered. I went back into like my crab shell, went back into a bubble. And so 2019 was just like not the best year for me. Like some good stuff happened in between there. I got a new job and, went back to my love of nannying and things of that nature. But mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, financially, it was just a super duper rocky year for me. So I just kind of wanted to give you guys, the respect of telling you why I disappeared on y'all. I know I'm not the most consistent video maker, but disappearing for a whole year and some change was definitely not the intention. So I'm trying to do better and trying to be more consistent now and go back and do all the stuff that God told me to do last year on top of the stuff that He's telling me to do this year. So just work with me, bear with me. I promise I'm going to give you some more. I love you guys, and I will talk to you later.